So the Trump administration has now disemboweled the education department, but they're just getting started. With newly appointed Education Secretary Linda McMahon, the wife of Vince McMahon and WWE executive, completely shuttering the department's offices today while she lays off nearly half its workforce, cutting it down from just over 4,200 people to just below 2,200, with those who got laid off reportedly being put on administrative leave starting March 21st. And notably, when Fox's Laura Ingraham asked her whether this is the first step toward a total shutdown, McMahon replied,
"Yes. Actually, it is, because that was the president's mandate, this directive to me, clearly is to shut down the Department of Education, which we know we'll have to work with Congress, to get that accomplished. But what we did today was to take the first step of eliminating what I think is bureaucratic bloat. And that's not to say that a lot of the folks, it's a humanitarian thing too. A lot of the folks that are there, they're out of a job."
Now with that, as you heard her mention, Trump cannot legally abolish the education department without an act of Congress, and Republicans would need 60 votes to bypass the filibuster. But also, last Friday, McMahon told Fox and Friends that Trump was preparing an executive order seeking to eliminate the department, with a draft order reportedly directing McMahon to do everything she legally can to dismantle it while acknowledging the need for Congress to totally abolish it. Now with this, Trump's claim since the beginning is that he's simply handing control over education back to the states, with him saying this morning about the department's workers.
Our Department of Education's maybe more so than any other place, has a lot of people that can be cut. They're, number one, not showing up to work. Number two, they're not doing a good job. We have a dream, and you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states, so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states can run education.
But there, you have critics like Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, saying that misunderstands how the education department actually works.
States and localities control education right now, from graduation standards to curriculum. The department doesn't run anything. What it does is fills opportunity gaps. So we're talking about kids in America, 90% of whom go to public schools. They want to take the funding. It's like robbing Peter to pay for Elon's tax cuts. Don't do this to our American children.
Right, so as far as what the department actually does, it provides a bunch of unique federal services. Services that include administering student loans and financial aid, dispersing funds for poor kids, homeless kids, and disabled kids, managing college accreditation, enforcing civil rights laws, and measuring student achievement nationwide. But notably, you had a senior official claiming to The Hill that the cuts won't impact student aid, students with disabilities, civil rights investigation, and formula funding to states. Except, we know that's probably not true for at least one of those. Or with reports noting that the already understaffed Office of Civil Rights suffered particularly steep cuts, with regional centers shuttered or reduced to a skeleton crew. Though we've also heard discussions from the White House about moving certain functions to other departments rather than outright eliminating them, namely handing civil rights to the DOJ, student loans to the Treasury, and disability programs to Health and Human Services. But what we are now also seeing is that regardless of where the cuts happen, the sheer number of them are reportedly overwhelming state unemployment system. This, according to a lawsuit filed by some state attorneys general last week, with it claiming that by suddenly laying off tens of thousands of federal workers without giving them severance or warning state agencies ahead of time, the White House effectively flooded state insurers. So for example, Maryland, which received less than 200 jobless claims from federal workers over the whole first quarter of last year, now reportedly sees 30 to 60 new claims every single day. And the suit says that state investigators have to examine each of those claims especially closely because the workers were laid off for different stated reasons and in such a chaotic manner. So that process would already be time consuming, but the suit adds that many state agencies aren't hearing back from the federal government as they try to obtain the information they need to resolve claims. All of which, it says, has created delays, leaving unemployed workers in financial limbo as many of them wait to see if they can get their jobs back. But these layoffs also aren't the only education-related cuts that we're seeing right now. For example, the Department of Agriculture reportedly slashing over $1 billion in funding for school meals and food banks. With that, including $660 million for the local Food for Schools program and $420 million for a program that provides food to food banks and organizations that reach underserved communities. And all of this as we're seeing things like the Nonprofit School Nutrition Association warning that Congress is considering further cuts. Cuts, including one proposal that would kick an estimated 24,000 schools serving 12 million students off of the community eligibility provision, which allows high poverty schools to offer free meals to all students without an application. Or a proposal that would strip 1 million students of automatic eligibility for free school meals, and another one requiring income verification with every meal and reduced price meal application. And so with that, you have the nonprofit's president writing in a statement, these proposals would cause millions of children to lose access to free school meals at a time when working families are struggling with rising food costs. Meanwhile, short-staffed school nutrition teams striving to improve menus and expand scratch batch cooking would be saddled with time-consuming and costly paperwork created by new government inefficiencies. But for now, we're gonna have to wait to see what happens, especially because the Trump administration, at least as of recording, doesn't appear to have commented on all this, except to say that the programs it just canceled, quote, no longer effectuate the goals of the agency. Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this clip from the full Philip DeFranco show. And also, a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring our Clips channel. Turn your passion into profit over at squarespace.com/Phil, or use the QR code. Because whether you're launching a business or a lucrative side hustle, your website is your digital business card. It's the only space where you control the story, no algorithms or distractions. And with Squarespace, it's so easy because they got a ton of stunning professional templates with drag and drop editing that makes site design incredibly simple. No coding required. So get started for free at squarespace.com/Phil, or scan the QR code on screen and use code Phil for 10% off when ready to launch. Squarespace.com/Phil.